Welcome to chapter 11 of the book of Exodus. It begins with a dialogue of God as a break right here for 3 verses, and then it returns to Moses speaking to Pharaoh. This break, and it says, "And Curio said to Moisin, 'Still one more calamity I will bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and after this he will send you from here.'" So this is it. This is one more thing is going to happen. "And whenever he should send you, he will cast you with all your things." I had the things because that's basically what it's talking about, by expulsion. "You speak then Krifi," cryptic comes from that word, "secretly into the ears of the people." And the imperative, so he's to tell them, get ready to go. We're going to be leaving tonight. And get all prepared, get everything ready, and here's what they're supposed to say. "And let each man ask from the neighbor," and the man because it's eschatos, masculine, "and each Guinea, woman or wife, from the neighbor woman, because that's feminine. Ask of items of argira, ke krisa." Argentina, derivative, chrysanthemum, chrysa is gold, silver and gold, "and clothes." And so this is the imperative. This is what they're to do. "And the Lord, Kyrios, gave favor to his people before the Egyptians, and they treated them." So when they asked him for all these things, they went ahead and gave without knowing what was going to happen that night. "And the anthropos, the man Moises, became exceedingly megas," a megaton, a bomb, a great, before the Egyptians and before Pharaoh and before his attendants. So now after all of these plagues, they're finally getting the attention deserved, and they're paying attention to what he has to say. "And Moses said, 'Thus says Kyrios.'" Now we've gone, the first 3 verses were the dialogue. Now we're going back into the returning of Moses speaking to Pharaoh. And he says that he's still there in the last chapter left, and Pharaoh said, "Leave. If I ever see you again, that'll be the last time you live," or something like that. And but he hasn't left yet. And Moses said, "Thus says Kyrios, around the middle of the niktas," nocturnal comes from that, "I will enter into the meson," middle, meso, the mesoderm, the middle skin, a layer of skin, meson of Egypt. So around the middle of the night. Now, I'm not sure when the middle of the night, if that'd be 12 o'clock or 1 or 2. "And every prototokon in the land of Egypt shall come to an end." Every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall come to an end. Now, was it a male, or was he talking about a female? What is this, the firstborn, and every firstborn? This is an adjective. If you have our book, Analytical Lexicon of the Apostolic Bible, you could look up number 4416 in there, and it's right here, 4416. It's right there. Right here, it says it's an adjective. Now, an adjective can take the place of a noun. Generally, it's a word that modifies another word, like the firstborn in the land of Egypt. But when you look in the book, you'll see that it's masculine, feminine, neuter. So here it could be any of those or all of the above, I suppose. Every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall come to an end. The prototokon. From the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sits down upon the throne, and to the firstborn of the female attendant by the millstone, and unto the firstborn of every beast. So I don't think it's necessarily the first male. Now, prototokon is an interesting word. To be a firstborn. Now, you can look at this word in two ways, and I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to be dogmatic on which one it is, but the first one would be a firstborn. You'd have to have more than one born for a person to be firstborn. If it was the only one, it would be monogenos, in which Jesus Christ is the only born of God, the monogenos. And it mentions that in the New Testament. But the prototokos is the firstborn. Now you could just say, well, it's the first one that comes out of the womb. Whether or not there's other ones afterwards, it doesn't really matter. And so I suppose you can argue the two, and people probably have. I believe that the firstborn is of more, you have to have more than one. So what I'm thinking, and possibly, is that the person would have the person that lost the firstborn would still have others alive. God is not going to take the only child. That's my opinion, and I see that from this structure of this word, that the firstborn. Now, Jesus was the prototokon, but not the prototokon of God. He was the monogenos of God, the only born. But who was he the prototokon of? He was the prototokon of a woman who had 7 children. Who is that? You say, well, 7 children? Who had 7 children? Jesus is part of that? Yeah, it's Mary. It's in the Bible. It says it names his 4 brothers in Mark, Joses, Judah, Simeon, and another one. It says that he had and his sisters. And he says, wasn't he the son of a technician or a builder of some sort? Not doesn't necessarily. It could be a carpenter or anything. The body is making something. And his sisters. So if he mentions 4 males, and then he says his sisters, he had to have 2 sisters to be plural. So the minimum, and then Jesus would be the 7th one. It could be more if he had more than 2 sisters. So Jesus was Mary's prototokos, the firstborn of Mary. So anyway, Moses is saying that the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall come to an end from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on the throne, and unto the firstborn of the female attendant by the millstone, unto the firstborn of every beast. And there will be a great cry, megali, by all the gain of Egypt. Genealogy comes from that, in which such as was not, and such as no longer shall be added. Nothing like this happened previously, and it's not going to happen again. But among all the sons of Israel there shall not growl, even a dog with its tongue, from man unto beast, so that you may see as much as the Lord does an incredible thing between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these your servants shall descend to me, and shall do obeisance to me, saying, you go forth and all your people whom you guide. So when they see this, get out of here. They're going to come and do obeisance to him, and leave. Please leave. And after these things I will go forth. And then it says, and Moses went forth from Pharaoh with rage. He was angry. Now, it could be, and Moses went forth from Pharaoh with rage, or was it that Moses went forth and Pharaoh had the rage, or Moses had the rage? With rage. I would think it was Moses here. The last chapter, it said Pharaoh was angry. And Kyrios said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, that I might multiply my signs, semaphore comes from that, and my miracles in the land of Egypt. He's not going to obey him, so excuse me, that the things of God that I do will be seen in the miracles, sort of what Jesus allowed Lazarus to die. And when he came to the crypt, well, that was actually before he came to when he was still where he was at, 3 days away, and he said that this was done to show the power of God, the mighty works, the miracle of God, that he would raise Lazarus from the dead. So this is what God does, and he has his way of doing things. Instead of doing by one thing and standing in front of Pharaoh and saying, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh's shaking, "Yes, sure, go." But no, he does it his own. God does it his way. And Moses and Aaron did all these miracles in the land of Egypt before Pharaoh, and I imagine it's talking about the previous 9 plagues. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not want to send out the sons of Israel from out of the land of Egypt. He hardened the heart, and he affected the heart of Pharaoh. In Mark 4:52, we see that the disciples, they didn't understand who Jesus was, and he's walking on water, and he calmed the sea and everything, and they didn't understand it. It says because their heart was calloused. And hardened and callous, is there a difference? Well, I'm not exactly sure. A hardened heart, it sounds like that would be, much more definitive than to have a callus. A callus can be taken off. You can rub them off, sand them off, different ways, scrape a callus off of a foot. And so the callus did come off of the disciples' hearts when they found out, but apparently Pharaoh didn't. And he didn't want to send out the sons of Israel from out of the land of Egypt. So now we find out about what's going on during that night. It's called the first Passover, and what the people do, and we'll have to wait until chapter 12, and next video seminar we'll go through that and find out what that's all about. And I hope you'll join us, and God bless.